In this video, we will be exploring every decade of the 1900s. The 1900s started off with 1900. Well, add 2 zeros to it. Many families at the time were just coming out of the 1800s, and the first ever train was made. The 1910s showed some right. When the 1910s rolled around, Henry Ford created his first ever automobile, the Model T. It was the first car, and he also created the assembly line. But something bigger happened. World War I struck. At the time, the Great War. Many big battles happened, and living conditions in the trenches were not great. Rats and sicknesses infested them. Food wasn't so great, and it was hard to get sleep because there was no beds, really. And if you were an officer, it would be better. Many battles like the Battle of Verdun happened also. And Passchendaele, Tannenberg, Somme, Gallipoli. All of these battles inflicted many casualties on the countries like Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, France, Belgium, and Britain. The war also included the start of machine guns, poison gases, and tanks. All of the countries. This war also got rid of many countries and empires, like, for example, the Ottoman Empire, now modern-day Turkey, was dissolved because of it. And Austria-Hungary split up into their own countries, Austria and Hungary, after the war. Also, we saw the start of the Spanish flu right after that. Like, this decade didn't have enough casualties. The Spanish flu is one of the worst sicknesses to ever happen. I'll let you read this. Then came the start of the Roaring Twenties, which people started spending money freely. Many gangs and mobsters formed too. Jazz music was really big, and the economy was rising back to the top in America. Many countries were still rebuilding after World War I. Many countries felt pride in themselves if they had won World War I, and the Roaring Twenties really brought out American ambition. So, the 20s seemed like they were never going to end. It had much fun and a lot of jazz music. Just a feel-good decade for many. We also saw some of the first few movies. And then, as I said, like many mobsters, a big one was Al Capone. He was in Chicago, and he forced the 1919 World Series, well, that was in the 20s, to happen. I meant the 10s. Then came the start of the Great Depression after the Wall Street market crash in 1929. This heavily affected many, and unemployed people rised, and the economy started plummeting just because all the people spent all their money in the 1920s. Lions would go all the way around streets, and few rich people were around in this time. Then came the start of the 1930s. As that's how long the Great Depression lasted, many countries were trying to rebuild too. But especially America was being affected by the Great Depression. Unemployment and money for people was common for most in America. Other countries were affected too. It wasn't just America. I keep saying America. it didn't seem like sadness would ever end. And, it didn't. Because then in 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, September 3rd. On September 1st. The war officially began on September 3rd, with France and Britain both declaring war on Germany. Germany was led by Adolf Hitler. Also, before we end the 1930s, another thing for Nazi Germany, this one not so great for them, was the Hindenburg explosion. The Hindenburg, an airship made by Nazi Germany, hydrogen had felt a spark and it exploded. Not too many people died, though, as not even 150 people were aboard. Then came the start of this World War II. World War II had a little area called the Phony War, but then that ended after Germany started invading France. Germany officially did go all the way through France with many battles, many British and French tragedies, especially the Battle of Dunkirk. It seemed like Nazi Germany had it all. But then something happened with America. The Empire of Japan deliberately attacked the United States of America on Pearl Harbor on December 6, 1941. This deeply affected World War II, and America declared war on the Empire of Japan. And foolishly, Germany and Italy declared war too. In 1943, the Battle of Stalingrad happened, one of the bigger battles of World War II. It was one of the longest too, and one of the most famous battles of all time. Made many German and Soviet deaths, and really had a turning point in the war. In June 6, 1944, the Allies had an operation called D-Day, aka Operation Overlord, led by Commander Dwight Eisenhower. And this started the Allied campaign all the way to the Rhine. Germany surrendered, and then the United States of America dropped the atomic bomb on the Empire of Japan. Then came the 1950s, with pop culture stars like Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, and more. The 1950s were very flashy, kind of like a second Roaring Twenties, but more. It also included the worldwide spread of the television. Also, it had the Korean War, which lasted 1950-1953, which had North Korea, South Korea, America, Soviet Union, and all China fight in one war. And this started the beginning of the Cold War. The Cold War was between the Soviet Union and the United States, where they had many things, like the space race, and they both had their own war, communism versus democracy. Just like in the 1960s, the Vietnam War started, with many Vietnam War protests, with young men going up to Vietnam. Many hippies had also formed, with the rise of psychedelics. Also, in pop culture this time, we had the Beatles with Paul McCartney, John Lennon, and more. Also, John F. Kennedy took Neil Armstrong to the moon, where the official moon landing happened and the end of the space race. Also, we had Led Zeppelin in the 1970s start off for music with their classic rock with songs like Stairway to Heaven and more. Also, the Vietnam War continued on as more people went out, but it did eventually end in 1972. America's skyscrapers started to rise around this time too, with buildings like in New York City and Chicago, the Twin Towers and the Sears Tower. Now it's called the Willis Tower. These both at one time were the tallest building in the world. In the 1980s, the Berlin Wall finally fell, separating East Berlin and West Berlin, separating communism and democracy. This was a huge point in the Cold War. It also gave the Germans more freedom. In the 1980s, Michael Jackson and MTV both exploded in the pop culture world, both being amazingly famous and one of the biggest parts of all of the 1900s. In 1985, Robert Ballard found the Titanic in the Atlantic Ocean, right where it sunk exactly. They found the bow, not the stern, as they both had split apart. In the 1990s, Michael Jordan and his Chicago Bulls took the 90s by storm, winning 6 championships in 9 years. Also, Nirvana and many other rock bands really is what shaped the 1990s in music. Also in pop culture, the famous show The Simpsons also was very popular at the time, giving people quick laughs, and it was before SpongeBob or Family Guy. Also, Princess Diana tragically got in a car accident in 1997. And in 1991, the Cold War had officially ended. And here I'll show you. You can read. Then that century came to an end in the year 2000. If you guys have any recommendations for a video, please comment them below. Have a good day.